The coffee was perfect. "Well, Mr. Kowalski, what do we do about this story of Julia? I came to tell you that Daniel is not my grandson. I'm willing to do some test to prove it. I admit there was a bond between me and Julia, for some reasons I couldn't tell. But between that and be a grandfather of Danielle," he stood up. "Look, you are a nice woman. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I'm willing to give any information you want to ask, any time. By the way, what about the letter? Can we read it?" "No, I'm sorry, not unless something will happen. It's nothing personal against you, I hope you understand." "Yes, I understand. Honestly, I really don't care. It shouldn't be any of my interest." Deborah did not understand what just happened. She was confused. It was all about Moshe. Her only role in the whole system was to make coffee. Suddenly everything seemed detached from reality. She had never been lucky from this gray and eroding job to suddenly pop up a valuable story. She thought that there was a big story here, and she wanted to handle it herself, so she didn't notify her superior. Moshe drove his car and headed to the hotel, where Julia stayed, hoping that at this late night hours it would prevent passers-by to see him. He called from a payphone and asked her to come down with the boy to discuss her agenda. "There is a solution," he told her. He noticed her approaching without the boy. "Daniel is asleep," she said, as she got into the car, but as she tried to find the appropriate position on the seat, she felt the syringe pierced her neck, and the car drove off. The next morning, the chambermaid entered the room of Julia to clean. She found Daniel alone. She tried to talk to him in Hebrew and English, but he did not answer. After cleaning the other rooms, she went back again, and found him still alone. She reported to her superiors about him, and after a while he was taken under the care of the police. Deborah was happy for the second opportunity that fall for her. She knew that the disappearance of Julia will rearrange the cards, and now her hands are up high again. She hurried to call Kowalski, and was surprised to discover that he was not ready to talk to her. She left him many messages again and again, but he never got back to her. Feelings of frustrations filled her. The letter was the only thing she could depend to. She opened it. The disappointment displayed in her face was indescribable. Dreams vanished in just a moment. All hopes and dreams that revolved from the letter of a poor woman, slowly reduced into few words. "I flew to America. I ask you to find the father of my son. Letter is attached for personal information of a Romanian man, and $3,000, that should probably help in finding his father." Deborah took the money in her pocket, and tore the letter. Daniel walked side by side with Deborah. His feet were having a hard time to stick for a fast walk. He ran, but his legs couldn't hear him. Her big palms were wrapped around his fingers, and found himself being dragged, as if nothing he could do to want her. He stumbled on a big stone. Deborah stopped and looked down at him, then pulled him up so hard until his arms seemed to rupture. He tried to wipe the sand stuck in his elbow, but he failed, and was left with a dirty, wounded elbow. He kept on walking, one hand holding the other that held a rustling plastic bag with white t-shirt and jeans with cuts in the knee, things he took with him in his new journey. The smell of the perfume that was coming from her was so heavy, which was a clear indication that things was rough. Though he was only 5 years old, he had no trouble understanding that from now on, his life will change completely. They stood in front of the gate, waiting for the school guard to open it for them. It was a big red gate, flanked with tall cypress trees boasting on each side, that tried to make the place green, and to give a fresh atmosphere, and to prevent from being seen by some bypassers around. But they couldn't hide the sense of bitterness displayed in the abandoned parking lot. Roots and weeds grew in between the asphalt slots. The guard opened the gate for them, and Daniel was amazed to see a large green lawn. Deborah dragged him right into a pathway, like across the grass, disregarding the granule pathway intended for walking. She knocked at the door of the manager's office, ignoring the secretary, who was sitting in the doorway, and only to realize that the manager was not in the office. Then she turned to the secretary. "Is he not here?" "You mean the principal?" "Of course, the principal." Deborah didn't hide her anger. There was an expression of terror in her face, pulling out her glasses off her nose. "I don't have all day. Go and find him for me, otherwise I will leave this little boy in the office, and I will get off here." He went to pray. "It's just a matter of about half an hour." "Half an hour? I do not have half an hour. Why do I have to wait for a half an hour for a certain matter which doesn't even take more than 2 minutes to settle?" The secretary looked at her until she finished grumbling. She knew that the social worker was going to be surprised. The procedure of registering a child to a boarding school takes at least 2 hours. This particular case will take even more. She looked at the skinny little boy, standing upright, and looking around. Behind those bright blue eyes and long eyelashes lay undeniable sadness and anxiety. Deborah sent Daniel to sit in the hallway. She was restless, walked back and forth, smoking cigarette one after the other, rubbing her hands together restlessly. Daniel tried so hard not to meet her eyes. He already succeeded to upset her in everything he did during the last 2 days that he spent in her apartment. He looked at the right wing of the school, and saw a paved basketball court, concrete benches, and high fences built around. On the left side of the field stood a beautiful oval-shaped building, where the windows were rounded and painted blue. In front of the building, mounted close to the walls, were tall palm trees and ornamental trees, and colorful flowers were beautifully arranged at the base of each palm tree. Daniel saw a tall man with a large black kippah, a circular piece of thin cloth or lattice which the religious Jews wear on their head, as a symbol of godliness, on his head, coming straight to his direction. He shrunk in place, scared from the stranger. The principal entered the office, and Deborah ran hurriedly after him. She sat right in front of him without invitation. "Listen, Mr. Solomon, I brought a child to the boarding school. Let's arrange everything, and do it quickly so that I can live a normal life. Since the disappearance of his mother, I never had a single peaceful moment." "Let me elaborate something," Solomon said with a soft, penetrating voice. "This school is already fully occupied. Living rooms that are designed for 4 children had already 6 children housed in it. There is only 1 bed left intended for a child that will be coming next week. So, there is no way I can accommodate this boy, though I want to. But this boy has no family. I have nowhere to take him to. Not until I find a place for him that is much better. Try to look for another boarding school. After all, if he has no family, there is no preference in our school which has a great demand." He paused, and when he realized that she didn't respond, he said, "Sorry, and stood up, indicating that the conversation was over. Deborah bit her lips angrily. She realized that the principal had no intention to make her life easier, but she didn't intend to give up too. She had already made a decision. She will leave this place without the boy. Listen, Mr. Solomon, your stories do not interest me. My job is to find a place fitted or not fitted to the child, just to get rid of him. If he won't be accommodated here, Ziana, my boss, will ask me to do a favor again, and take this boy and be with my children again, and I have no intention of doing so. I come across such cases all the time. I do not have time to waste my feelings for this, and certainly don't have the strength to handle all responsibilities, to host all social cases like this in my house. Just as when she finished, she grabbed her bag and left the place. Solomon, the principal, followed her out and called her to take the child with her, but she continued to walk on the grass path. Solomon went back. He passed over Daniel and rubbed his forehead. "Give him something to eat," he ordered the secretary, and went back to his office. He tried to think about the situation, and after a while he dialed Deborah's boss. "Hi Ziana, Deborah, your employee was just here. She left the boy here, even though I already explained to her that I had a problem accommodating new kids. I am begging you to send someone and get the boy back from here." Ziana was not surprised to receive a call from Solomon. Not when she sends Deborah for such a mission like this. Daniel's case was exceptional, and only a woman like Deborah, who lacked concern for others' feelings, was fitted to the task. "Yes, Deborah talked to me. She said that you only have one place available for a child who should be arriving next week. Put Daniel in his place. First come, first served. You know the school. The rabbi will not agree for a non-Jew child to take the place of a Jewish child. It's not that we are racists. You know that there are also some children here who are not Jews, but they do not take anyone's place." There was silence on the other side of the line. "Ziana?" "Yes, I'm here." "Solomon, try maybe to look for one more place for the boy. Just one more place. The boy just lost his mother." "How can I send him to Romania? You know what is going on there. Orphanages are full, cemeteries are crowded, and they just leave their children to starve. You must understand that if we can't find a place to accommodate him soon, we will be forced to send him to Romania. I have to find him a place until the committee will find a way and keep him in the country. No, Ziana, do not put me into the middle of this situation. I also don't feel good about the boy, but you have to understand that I couldn't give him the place intended for a child who has also his story, and not to mention the big difference that he is also a Jew who came from a religious family. Solomon, I'm also a religious woman, but just one look at the boy, and my heart tells me not to send him back to Romania. I know that you two wouldn't dare to do that,